My husband is blind to his work wife, ruining our marriage. She manipulates him and even calls him her husband right in front of me. Original post, February 9, 2025. I, 31 female, am at my wit's end with my husband's, 32 male coworker Sarah, 30 female, and his complete inability to see what's happening. I'm not usually one for Reddit, but I need to know if I'm going crazy here. Where do I even start? 3 years ago, my husband Mark started working with Sarah. At first, I tried to be welcoming. I invited her to our BBQs, included her in group outings, and genuinely tried to be friendly. Big mistake. She spent the entire time making backhanded comments about everything from my career. Oh, you're just a yoga instructor? How peaceful. To my cooking. I guess not everyone can master basic seasoning. The real problem is that Mark thinks she's just being funny. Last month, she literally threw away the anniversary mug I gave him because it clashed with the office aesthetic. When I got upset, Mark said I was being too sensitive and that Sarah just has high standards for office decor. It was a mug with our wedding photo on it. Some greatest hits from Sarah. She scheduled a mandatory work dinner on our anniversary. She convinced Mark not to take a promotion because it would mean working with a different team. She posts daily photos of them together with hashtags like work power couple and work spouse. She tells everyone at their office that she takes better care of him than I do. She changed his coffee order and now tells everyone she trained him right. The worst part? My husband is completely blind to all of this. Yesterday, he actually told me about how Sarah said our new house, which we spent months searching for, was charming in a starter home kind of way. He repeated this while laughing. I tried talking to him about it, but Sarah has convinced him I'm just insecure. She's managed to insert herself into every aspect of our lives. They text constantly, even on weekends. She knows his schedule better than I do. She rearranged his entire desk and office wardrobe because his style was too suburban husband. That's what he is. Last week, I suggested marriage counseling. He looked genuinely confused. He of course went and talked to Sarah about it. I found out from another coworker that she's been telling people that Mark and I are going through a rough patch, and that she's just being a good friend by giving him someone to talk to. We weren't going through anything until she started this nonsense. The breaking point? I stopped by his office to surprise him with lunch. I know, but it was his birthday and Sarah was supposedly out sick. Guess who was there? Sarah. She'd miraculously recovered, and bought him a cake that said, "To my work hubby," with a photo of them from the office holiday party. She saw me and said, "Oh, Amy. You came too. How nice. Mark, you didn't tell me your real wife was coming. I'm not crazy, right? This woman is trying to destroy my marriage while my husband stands there grinning like it's all some big joke. What should I do? Divorce seems extreme, but I'm running out of options here. TLDR. My husband's work wife is actively trying to sabotage our marriage while he remains completely oblivious to her obvious manipulation. ETA. I should have stated that the promotion wasn't one that would increase his salary but his title. It would give him more leadership experience. It still blows my mind that he turned it down just so he could stay on the same team as her. ETA. I should have told the mug story in its entirety. She accidentally broke the mug. I noticed it was gone when I was visiting him one day and I asked him about it. He said she accidentally knocked it over and then later he repeated a joke she made about how it didn't fit the office aesthetic. Top comments. Comment 1. Sarah would not be able to sabotage your marriage if your husband wasn't allowing it. Comment 2. You have a husband problem. Go to counseling and get professional help to communicate your concerns. Remind him that he's married to you, not Sarah, so her opinions shouldn't matter when it comes to your marriage. Good luck, but be prepared for the worst. Comment 3. Yeah, this guy isn't oblivious, he's complicit. He knows what's happening, and he likes the attention. He is happy to let his girlfriend disrespect his wife. Update. February 13, 2025, 4 days later. Hi, I, 31 female, posted a few days ago. I really didn't expect my post to blow up the way it did. I got so overwhelmed by all the comments that I haven't responded to any. I want to address everyone who says it's fake. I understand why you think that, but this is my personal hell. I only listen to Reddit stories on TikTok, but when this reached its boiling point, I just needed a place to talk. So I made an account and tried to yell into the void. Well, the void turned out to be less empty than I thought. Now, to why everyone is here. The update. Before I talked to my husband, 32 male, I decided to do some investigation. I started with his phone and read all the messages between him and Sarah. She badmouthed me a few times. He did nothing to defend me but didn't engage either. She was flirty. He wasn't really flirty back. They talked a lot, and he praised her frequently for her work ethic and intelligence. I didn't see anything about cheating. I checked his email, nothing. I checked his work email, nothing. I looked through our other devices, nothing. I searched high and low for a second phone, nothing. Everything I found was always dancing that line. Nothing was outright cheating, but here are the things I found that did hurt my feelings. He has lunch with her, and only her, every day in the office. They don't really like anyone else, so they'll criticize others and say, "Let's talk more at lunch, they're serving XYZ today." He'd say things like, "I'm sure if you were a wife, you would XYZ." He always kept it as a wife, and not my wife, but it still upset me. She admitted to breaking the mug on purpose. He didn't get upset with her, just said, "Yeah, the photo gifs are kind of corny." I confronted him. I laid it all out, and while he wasn't upset, he did try to brush things off. He said I was being sensitive and overreacting. I told him if we didn't have a real conversation about this, I would file for divorce. That got his attention, and he sat down with me. He admitted that at first, he found it odd that Sarah was trying so hard. He saw her trying hard with all the men in the office. The more attention she gave him, the more he enjoyed it, and the more he responded, the more attention she gave, until she just had her sights on him. He knew some of the other men were envious, and he liked that too. He admitted that eventually, he just got too deep. He said he knew it was wrong but had gotten addicted to the attention and didn't want her to move on to another man. So he indulged her sometimes at my expense. He said it was just nice to have two women in the two major parts of his life, stating that he knew we'd rarely see one another, so what was the harm? He reiterated that he never ever physically cheated with her but admitted it could be called an emotional affair. It was painful, I won't hide that. I mean really painful, like I wasn't enough. I told him from this point on, he needed to stop communicating with Sarah and ask to be transferred or switch jobs altogether. Now folks, I mean it when I tell you this. He lost his shit. He began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated. It was all above board, and I couldn't control who he talked with at work. He called me a narcissist and a control freak. He told me I had no idea how hard it was, how much stress he had in the office, and that his personal relationship with Sarah helps a lot. Taking it away would just damage his mental health. It got so bad that I started crying. I couldn't take it anymore and decided to leave. I packed a small bag and called my MIL. She's the only family I have here. I gave her a rundown of what was going on, and she offered her home to me. I'm staying here and just hoping my husband calms down so we can revisit this. I want to work it out. I love him more than anything. I will try harder to answer comments on this post, and I will definitely update if something new happens. This has been really therapeutic and makes me feel less alone. TLDR. I confronted my husband about his work wife, and he lost it on me. Now I'm staying with my mother-in-law. Top comments. Comment 1, Welp, I kind of figured he wasn't that clueless. This is a full-blown emotional affair. From experience, things will only escalate when they are in bed together. Protect your peace, because he sure doesn't give a damn about your feelings. Stay strong. Comment 2. Jumped right from admitted it could be called an emotional affair, to, he began raising his voice, saying things like he never cheated. OP made a valiant effort, but it doesn't seem like this marriage can be saved. Additional comments from OOP about her Mael. My Mill is on my side and told me point blank that he is wrong. However, she said she doesn't want to get in the middle because she doesn't want to damage the relationship with either one of us. She told me I'm welcome as long as I need, but she won't bring anything up to her son until he brings it up to her. My MIL agrees his actions are wrong but doesn't want things to escalate or to damage her relationship with either one of us, so she is staying out of it unless he contacts her. As for my husband, he has tried to reach out. He's called, left message, texted. I let him know I was safe and left it at that. He will message or call every few hours but we haven't talked. New update. Update 2, February 14, 2025, one day from previous update. Well, I'm back. First, I want to address some of the negative comments. To all the people saying they're Team Sarah, and hoping Sarah and my husband get together, I even saw a nasty comment saying Sarah and my husband would be the office power couple. How can you sit here and say nothing's going on? You claim my husband didn't cheat and I'm being crazy, yet in the same breath wish they would get together? You're contradicting yourself because deep down you know something romantic was developing. Now for the update. My husband came to my mother-in-law's house, she didn't call him. He knew I was there because I told him, and he said he wanted to talk. Some big things happened in such a short time. He wanted to explain. According to my husband, After I left, he started to reflect. He did call his mom and they had a long talk. I didn't know any of this. She asked him if he was happy with me and he said yes, but I made him extremely happy. I was a good wife and a great partner. This is kind of what sunk into him, that he was being juvenile for wanting attention from another woman. I did ask him why he always brushed things off and never took action before. He said he couldn't explain it, it just felt good. He assured me he never wanted to sleep with her and never advanced things that way. It was just nice having someone around who was fawning over him, like a fan. For those who said he didn't know what an emotional affair was and was just agreeing with me, you were right. He admitted he didn't really understand what an emotional affair was, but after looking it up, he agreed that's what it was, though unintentional. He said he didn't want to lose his friend, so he just went along with a lot of what she did. He admitted he was deep into a fog, but me leaving and this conversation with his mom was the one thing that brought him out of it. He said he didn't want to fight. My husband is big on giving me my space, so when I left he didn't chase after me because he thought it would be best for us to just cool down and think about this and hopefully come back and discuss it more rationally. He did reach out to Sarah. Though they didn't meet in person, they had a phone call. He told her they couldn't remain as close, that their out-of-office texts and calls needed to stop, that he would get a replacement mug she wasn't to touch, and that they needed to cut back on their lunches. He wanted to handle this before talking to me, to show he was serious. Sarah didn't take it well. She started berating me, saying I was forcing him to do this. My husband stopped her and said no. He was doing this because his marriage was important. He admitted letting things go too far but clarified he had no romantic interest in her. He told her if she had feelings for him, she needed to distance herself immediately. Sarah ended up ruining their friendship herself. Though my husband was willing to maintain a more distant friendship, her comments about me and him, claiming she'd never want him and that everything she did was because she knew we weren't meant to be together, and she was trying to open his eyes. He said he couldn't believe he'd never seen how vindictive and awful she was almost venomous. It didn't end well. After handling that situation, he came to see me, wanting to ensure I knew he understood and was taking the proper steps. He said we could do whatever I needed. I know some of you will say I'm wrong, that divorce is the only option because he had an emotional affair. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not divorcing my husband. I told him we needed counseling for both of us. Yes, going through all his devices, emails, and texts might have been extreme. He agreed it felt like a breach of privacy but understood given the circumstances. I told him we both needed to work on things. As of right now, I guess you could say that we're separated. We're not staying in the same house. We're going to attend counseling. I don't want to just jump back into things with him. I don't want it to seem like it was okay to make me feel like I was the second option, to ignore all those red flags and to brush me off. This has to be worked on. I'm leaving his mother's house and staying with a friend. I'm not sure if anyone's going to want an update after this. Sorry it's so anticlimactic. Sorry it's typical. Oh, you just got back together. I mean it is, but it isn't. I love my husband. I know he loves me. I don't think everything is an end-all be-all. Yes, it's a terrible situation. Yes, he did a terrible thing, but I want my marriage to last, so we're giving it another go. I genuinely hope this is my last update, but if it's not, y'all will know. Thank you for all the messages. All the support for everything really has been a huge help. Top comments. Comment 1. Honestly, this was the update I was hoping for. I'm happy he recognized it and that you two are working for your marriage. All the best, and I hope your marriage is stronger after this episode. Comment 2. Glad to hear that the fog is lifting. I hope he sticks to his word and distances himself from Sarah. I would even involve HR to let them know what is going on in case she gets vindictive and tries to cause trouble at work. I'm happy to hear that you're proceeding cautiously. I hope everything goes well for you in the end. Third update. Update 3. February 18, 2025, 4 days from previous update, but removed due to posting too many updates. Hi Reddit, we are continuing our work-wife saga. As a lot of you predicted in my last update, Sarah wasn't happy about my husband ending their friendship and trying to put a distance between him and her. I seriously thought she was going to reach out to me, but she never did. Why? Because this was never about me. I was not even on her radar except for somebody to tear down. I will give Sarah one thing. She is extremely efficient. She started her campaign long before Monday morning. Over the weekend she reached out to several of my husband's coworkers, mostly male. She told them that my husband had randomly stopped being friends with her and she suspected it was my fault. She said she couldn't believe it. Everyone knew how close they were. She just felt bad for him. Wanted to be a friend for him and hopefully help him out of our terrible marriage. She went on and on about how she couldn't believe how much this is going to affect her during her working hours and that she didn't know if she can continue working at this job. One of the female workers at my husband's job messaged me all of this. As a lot of you predicted, she is gearing up to accuse my husband of sexual harassment. Monday alone she has put herself in the path of my husband multiple times. It kind of feels like she's setting up to do something, and he said she had an argument because she's doing a lot of odd things, at least according to my husband. Think stuff like intentionally following my husband into a room or a section of the office that is somewhat closed off, accidentally emailing him or forwarding him things, going to his cubicle multiple times a day for no reason, sitting close to him in meetings. It seems harmless, but really it feels like she's gearing up for something. My husband did go to HR first thing Monday morning, and like I kind of thought, they pretty much said they can't do anything unless it affects work or working hours. His HR is not the greatest. He did let them know what she was doing today, but honestly, I don't think they took him seriously. We've been thinking about moving. The only thing that keeps us here is really his mom, so he might just transfer jobs? We're not really sure. I hope things don't escalate anymore, and since he went to HR already, I'm hoping that nothing big happens. I'd like to give a little update about our counseling. To all the people who tell me that I'm making a mistake by giving my husband another chance and trying to work it out. I am so happy I don't listen to you. I understand it was a shitty situation. I lived through it. I know it is. I know how it felt. But counseling has revealed a lot about my husband that I didn't even know. Apparently he was bullied severely in high school, and he kind of went through a little glow up when he went into college. Sarah is definitely one of those stereotypical blonde pretty girls, and my husband admits that it did kind of feel like he finally got his chance to be popular in a social setting. My husband admitted that Sarah basically mirrored everything about him. He likes his dislikes. She talked to him like he walked on water. It definitely sounded like she was boosting his ego in a manipulative fashion. Like I said, I understand this isn't just a forgive and move on kind of situation, but hearing my husband talk about how it felt the way it affected him, it made me have a lot more sympathy for him. I still haven't come back home, but we're doing it one day at a time. I went and had lunch with him on Monday, and I'm going again today. I'm trying to be there for him so he doesn't feel alone. I'm really ready for all this to die down. I'm hoping it doesn't get taken farther at work, but if it does, we'll deal with it. OP, your husband should be documenting everything, in writing, as it occurs. And then, provide it to management. In addition, a consultation and possible engagement of a seasoned labor law employment attorney. Now to the next story, story 2. My parents have chased away every boyfriend I have ever had. How can I prevent this from ruining my relationship with my current boyfriend? Original, February 13, 2025. I was very shy during high school and didn't leave my house unless I had to, so as a result I didn't get a boyfriend until my freshman year of college. After 7 months of dating my first ever boyfriend, I brought him to my parents' house for dinner, just so they could meet him. I had to step away for roughly 10 minutes to help my older sister with her baby, and when I came back, my BF, then 20 male, and my dad, old, were having a full-blown fistfight. We managed to stop them, and my BF stormed off without saying anything, while my dad insisted my BF was incredibly rude and disrespectful to him and my mother, and that a guy like that was no good for me, because he'd just end up doing the same thing to me. I was shocked that my BF could do such a thing because he had always been extremely sweet and I've never met or heard of anyone not liking him. But when I called him and told him what my dad had said about what happened, all he did was laugh and say I can believe whatever I want, before blocking me on everything. I was deeply disturbed by this, but my mom and sister insisted that he had just shown his true colors, and said my dad saved me from an abuser. I reluctantly accepted this, but something about it felt really off. I met my second boyfriend several months later, during my sophomore year. Part of me still felt my parents were part of the problem with my last BF. So I managed to get him to wait an entire year before introducing him to my parents. From the moment she laid eyes on him, every word my mom spoke to him was dripping with fake friendliness and subtle jabs implying she did not approve of him, which made him visibly uncomfortable. While we were eating dinner, she began asking me why I decided to date my BF, and asked about other guys and why they didn't work out. Some of the guys she asked about were completely made up. At this point it was clear what they were trying to do, and I silently vowed to talk to my boyfriend and tell him how my parents were trying to sabotage me. Unfortunately, it didn't get that far, as my dad chipped in and demanded to know how a boy, who couldn't support himself financially, was ever going to support his daughter. Mind you, we were both juniors in college at this point, and both of us were working part-time jobs. So this question was really insane. He responded by saying he'd already decided he wanted nothing to do with this family and was planning to break up with me when he got home, but he's just going to leave now. Within minutes, he was gone and I was blocked. Again. My parents insisted they did nothing wrong and just wanted to test his confidence as any parents would, But I pointed out that this was the second boyfriend they chased away, and they didn't do anything to scare off my older sister's husband. I went low contact with them after that, but fast forwarding a little bit, I eventually allowed them to gaslight me into introducing them to my third boyfriend, whom I had met towards the end of my senior year, and basically the same thing happened. I had made it through college unable to find a long-term BF, purely because of my parents. I did meet my current boyfriend, 28 male, 2 years ago, and I have managed to avoid introducing him to my family thus far. If he ever brought it up, I would always have a ready-made excuse prepared to explain why it wasn't possible, which has been pretty easy because he usually only asks about them when planning for major holidays. I have fallen madly in love with him and hope to start a family with him one day, but he recently told me that he can't even allow me to move in with him until he's had a chance to meet my family. I do not know what to do, as I know my parents will make it their mission to break us up if they meet him, but based on his insistence on meeting them, I realize I can't put this off any longer. Usually, relationships end because of something one person in the relationship says or does, and it's incredibly unfair that I always end up single because of things I cannot control. I want to tell my BF about my parents and insist that meeting them is a bad idea, but I've listened in on some of his conversations with his friends, and the general consensus among them seems to be that a girl with a super dysfunctional family is a massive red flag, and an indicator of what their married life would be like. So I come here asking, how do I approach the problem that is my parents without risking losing the longest relationship I've ever had? If my parents end up being the cause of yet another breakup, I just don't know what I'll do. I just don't know. Edit. Wow, I made this post about an hour before going to bed, but woke up to quite a few comments here. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped me realize what I need to do. I've read through all of the comments and saw some recurring questions come up that I wanted to address. I am not fully in contact with my parents primarily because they helped me a lot financially during college and when I first graduated and was looking for a job. When I went low contact with them, they constantly yelled at me for being ungrateful and said family does not turn on each other over minor disagreements involving boys. It sounds ridiculous when I type it here, but after months of this treatment, when I found myself faced with the decision to either tell them I forgive them so they'll pay for my dorm room, or refuse to forgive them and have to move back home, I ended up caving. Why didn't I stand up for my past BFs when I saw them being verbally abused? I don't know. I've never been allowed to talk back to my parents, so the thought of calling them out while we have company over is not something I realized I could do, I guess. My arguments with them after they ran off BF 2 and 3 were the only times I've ever come into full conflict with them in my entire life. I will be going to my boyfriend's house today after work, and will tell him everything. I am terrified he will still want to meet them, just thinking about it has me shaking at my desk. But you all are right. He has a right to know and make his own decision. Edit 2. I told him and even showed him this post. To make a long story short, he still would like to meet them but thanked me for telling him, as he always figured something was seriously wrong. My parents host dinners for our family every Sunday, and we will be attending this one. I suppose I'll make a new post with an update afterwards. Top comments. Comment 1. You stop bringing anyone you like around them. Period. Tell your boyfriend why. They get weird and run anyone you date off with their nonsense and you'd rather just avoid them altogether. My boyfriend knows all about my dysfunctional family and abusive upbringing. It didn't run him off. If anything, it brought us closer as he empathized. ETA. We just celebrated 6 years together. The right partner won't hold your family against you. You couldn't choose them, after all. Comment 2. If your plan is to stay with him in the long run, you have 2 options. 1. Come clean about why you don't want them to meet and explain exactly why you're scared of them meeting, or 2. Cut off your parents entirely and tell your boyfriend you cut them off. Ideally, either way you end up telling him why you chose what you chose. Good relationships take communication, and if your boyfriend doesn't know why he's being kept away from your family, that most likely will be the reason you break up. Update, February 18, 2025, 5 days from original update. I meant to make this update a lot sooner, but since my last post a lot has happened. I truly appreciate all the comments I received calling me out for hiding my parents being insane from my BF and encouraging me to be honest with him. My boyfriend is pretty involved now, so I guess I should give him a fake name. I will call him Ethan. I sat Ethan down and told him about my parents and how they ran off my previous boyfriends, before showing him my original post as many recommended. Fortunately, he did not seem to care that I hadn't told him, but he did agree with many commenters that my parents were more than just insane. They were outright abusive. Although he understood how I felt, he still said he would like to meet them, both to see it for himself, but also because he felt there was an underlying reason for their behavior. My parents have dinner for the family every Sunday, which I have been attending on the weeks that I'm not hanging out with Ethan that day, so we agreed that he would come to the next one. When Sunday came and we arrived at my parents' house, my anxiety was through the roof. Ethan had agreed to leave with me the moment things started to get out of hand, but with my parents that could have easily been as soon as we walked through the front door. My parents were surprisingly very nice, though. My dad actually seemed excited to see Ethan, and my mom fawned over her daughter bringing home such a handsome, confident-looking man. I couldn't understand what was happening. Ethan even shot me a look a couple times, as if to silently ask if he was missing something, because my parents were actually lovely. I want to provide a play-by-play of the entire night, but the post would just be too long. The point is, my parents had done a complete 180 from their previous behavior, and it made me look and feel crazy for trying to warn Ethan about them ahead of time. During dinner, my mom said she was so happy to see her daughter had finally found someone who wasn't judgmental and was willing to give me a chance because of the person I am today, because the past doesn't matter. My heart dropped. What was she talking about? Ethan said he does not know about anything in my past that may be cause of concern, and my parents exchanged a concerned look, as if it was rehearsed. My dad asked him why he thinks my previous relationships failed, and he said that he was under the impression they got scared away after meeting my parents. My mother looked at me with disappointment on her face and said, "Oh P, is that really what you told him?" I was at a loss for words, but Ethan was not. He said that it's pretty clear they are trying to plant seeds of doubt in him about our relationship, but he is not interested, as he knows me well enough to know my character and that even if there was something serious in my past, parents who loved and supported me or even just wanted grandchildren would keep it a secret to avoid ruining my relationship. My dad said he already has 2 grandchildren, and motioned towards my sister, who did not have her kids with her that evening. Ethan said my dad must have been very supportive of my sister for her to be able to start a family while he tries to run off any guy I bring home, and my dad's response was very casual, but extremely shocking. He said, "Of course, she's actually mine." Everyone was quiet for a few moments, until Ethan spoke up and said that now all of the abuse they've only put me through is starting to make sense. My mom said he's spouting nonsense, and that I have not been abused in any way. She then looked at me and admitted her marriage had a rocky start, but both her and my father have moved past that. I was too busy replaying my entire life in my head to say anything. The previous boyfriends, the lack of support for my social outings growing up, the volleyball games I had to have a friend drive me to because my parents were always too busy, the rage I was always at risk of facing if I ever spoke my mind. All while my sister got the opposite. I started to cry, the hardest I ever have. Ethan immediately announced that we were leaving. My dad demanded we stay where we are so we can clear things up, but Ethan ignored him as he pulled me out of my chair and led me away. My mom screamed at me not to leave, and that this guy was trying to isolate me from my family. I yelled back that if anyone had been trying to isolate me, it was her, for my whole life. As we drove back to Ethan's place, my mom sent me several text messages cussing me out, saying one mistake doesn't change the fact that my dad loved, supported, and raised me, and that he would always be my real father. Ethan said he's not my dad, he's an abusive, controlling asshole who was taking his insecurities out on me. I ended up blocking both of my parents' numbers because they were saying some truly awful things to me, both about myself and Ethan. Ethan said he was expecting them to be crazy, but this was far worse than he could have anticipated. He said I need to go into therapy immediately, and that he will pay for anything my insurance doesn't cover. My parents showed up at my apartment twice yesterday to demand I come out and speak to them, but I've been staying at Ethan's all weekend and will likely be here all week. I'm not sure if this is the update y'all wanted. I had countless people enraged at me for being spineless and not standing up to my parents, and while I had planned on doing so, that's not what happened. I don't know what is going to happen with my parents, or where I go from here. But now that the holiday is over, I can spend some time looking for a good therapist. Top comments. So your mom cheated on your dad and you are the affair baby and they treated you poorly because of that? Is that the story, or has my reading comprehension failed me? Maybe you have a great father out there somewhere. 23andMe? Ethan sounds great. The truth shall set you free. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.